Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We got a Tout Wars recap, NFBC main event preview, and reviews from our respective offspring sports tournaments, all coming up on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Jeff Erickson here with Fred Zinke, who is the parent of the year. He gave up defense of a two-time NL championship in Tout Wars to be at his son's hockey tournament this weekend. Fred, how'd it go?
So this is my son who's not super serious about hockey. His team won one game. They lost two games. They spent way more time at the hotel water park than they did at the hockey arena. My son said he had a great time. And to top it all off, on the 2.5 hour drive home on Sunday morning, I listened to the Tout Wars NL auction on Sirius that I would have been participating in.
Oh, no.
So I was actually driving, listening to the bids. And it was good coverage. They had a good auctioneer type guy on at some of the points.
Was that Fensty that was doing that?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, he's good at that. He gets into it.
As I was following along, I was listening and I was like, oh, that's a great deal. You know, oh, that's a terrible deal. And I thought I could have rocked this. I could have rocked this auction. I would have been great in it. I'm probably wrong. I might not have, but I had ideas certainly driving home, but
so
whatever.
Who were some of those ideas? What caught your ear?
I don't know. That's probably all. I'd have to probably pull the draft board up. Now I'm more focused on your team from the
pulling
AL
off
auction.
The side of the road. You're like,
it was kind of
write that down right now.
So you really realize when you're listening to it on the radio how fast the auction goes. Like a player would go for whatever, this guy goes for $22, and I think to myself, do I like that? Do I not like that? And already the next player was already up. So I haven't done any auctions this year, and I'm not going to now because Tout Wars is usually my only auction. And I forgot how exciting they are. They're
auctions are the
awesome.
best.
Yes.
They're so much fun, especially early on. But when the powder is still fresh and you have a budget to spend still, and the world is your oyster. You can build any way you want. Then you get into later rounds, and you're like, oh, what did I do?
I know. And you know how I've already talked on here about how I love when there's less of a playbook. And I love the NFBC ADP, but I also hate it because it's such a playbook for everyone. I feel like with auctions, there's much less of a playbook. That's what I really enjoyed about Tout Wars with the OBP difference. Even for my draft, there was less of a playbook. I love the auctions because there's less of a playbook, right? So
sure.
You hear certain guys go off the board and you think, oh, wow, that's more than I thought. What does that mean? Does that mean that type of player is going to go for more? Is that just an overpay? Yeah, I think that part's all really fun.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's so much fun. I can't wait till we're back in person though. As much as the online worked, and thanks to Fantrax for providing the auction rooms. They were good. I like their auction software.
Me too.
I thought it worked out pretty well. So if you're going to try to do your auction online, you can try Fantrax. You'll be hearing from Fantrax later. A little spoiler alert. But yeah, I liked it. It's multiple years running now that we've done that. This is our third year in a row we've had to do Tout Wars online because of pandemic-related issues. Hopefully, we're back in person again.
I know it's one of those things where you're like, hey, the Fantrax room is awesome. Hopefully, we never use it again. Right? Like, hopefully we're all in New York next year and we don't need to use the Fantrax room. But I agree with you. If someone wants to do an online auction, I think the Fantrax room is very user-friendly. It's great. But it's funny to say, yeah, for sure. Talk out of both sides of my mouth and say that Fantrax room is great. Hopefully we don't have to use it next year.
Right.
I was thinking of that too. Just because we're starting to move out of the pandemic, it seems like a little bit closer. And yeah, hopefully next year I would like to go back to New York.
Yeah, I would too. And just being in the room, especially for an auction. Live drafts are great too, and I'm psyched. I'm going to Vegas this weekend for the NFBC main event. I'm very excited about that because it's first time in 3 years for that. I've been to other drafts in person since then, but it's different for the NFBC. It's just different. That's such a fun weekend. Tout's an amazing weekend. Just seeing all my friends that I've made over the years. You might think it's a cliquey community. It's not. It's a very friendly community. We're all just fantasy baseball nerds loving life. The fact that we're in Vegas, some of us think we're cooler than we really are, but then we get that harsh, cold reality at some point there. But we're big in our own little world, and that's fun.
Yep.
And it's an event. I can't wait to see people draft against them. It's gonna, I can't wait to say how hard my league is. Then look at the league next over and say, oh my god, that's not a berry patch either.
Yeah.
They're all hard leagues, and that's also great. That's fun. So. I enjoy doing tout because I haven't done a whole lot of auctions. Did XFL back in the fall. But for the most part, I've been doing all sorts of snake drafts. I enjoyed it. Shall we talk about Tout Wars right off the top? Get that.
Let's do that. I definitely want to talk about your Vegas team at some point, but we'll
do that next.
Yes. Next. Okay. You stole Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at this auction. $36. That's it?
Yeah. And it's an OBP league.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I could make a good argument that he's the number one player in an American League only OBP league. Him or Jose Ramirez, in my opinion, would be the number one player in an American League OVP league. And you got him for $36 when other players like Ramirez went for $43 and Kyle Tucker went for $39. Vlad should have been right there with those guys. He should have been a $40 player. He's not.
It's because he doesn't run.
Yep.
That's why he goes for lower.
Yes. And here's where I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
And for anyone listening, Jeff didn't know if I was going to like his team or dislike his team.
No, I didn't get. I didn't solicit any input. That's true.
That's right. So this was not discussed ahead of time. Well, technically, I haven't said so far that I like your team. I just said I like your Vladimir Guerrero pick.
Right.
But one of the problems with taking Vlad in drafts is that a lot of the steals fly off the board early, especially players who are good players and steal bases. Those guys are gone like in 3 or 4 rounds in most drafts. So then you don't want to take Vlad because you're like, okay, well, if I take Vlad, like, how am I going to get my steals? And if I get Vlad and my steals, how am I going to get my starting pitching? My ace. And I don't have room to get all this. So forget it. I just won't take Vlad. I'll just, take Garrett Cole. So I got a pitcher, or I'll take, Ohtani. So I get some steals or whatever. In an auction, people have to you have to expand your mind a little bit. You can take Vlad and still get your steals because you don't have to draft one player per level per round.
Right.
You can draft Vlad and Whit Merrifield in this AL. You didn't, but you could do that. Like, you can draft Vlad and a couple base stealers, and it doesn't matter, what rounds they would have been in a draft. You can make it all work. So I think the fact that Vlad doesn't run doesn't matter in an auction, because what you're getting is the safest hitting talent in the American League.
Yeah. And keep in mind too, that it's a closed universe. There's not an overall contest. So
That's right.
I don't have to aim for 80%, 80th percentile in stolen bases. If I get 4 points in stolen bases, 5 points, and, do well in OBP and power, otherwise, hey, bully for me. So that was, and he was the 3rd player out of the chute. And that matters a lot too. Because prices aren't necessarily set. It went Presley, who I got as the first player out of the block. It's like, so much for exercising restraint. Got 2 first and 3rd player, Presley and Ohtani. But if you look at the closer prices, there's a big 6 in closers, and he was the cheapest of them. Hendricks, there's Hendricks, Romano. There's a lot of good.
Yeah,
there's 6
Romano,
good AL closers.
$23. That is.
Yeah, Hendricks only went for 23. That might have been a bargain too. Larry Schechter did well with that.
Plus, he went for 23. So getting Hendricks for 23, I think, is really good.
Yeah, but and the funny thing about Presley is, so first player out of the chute. What do we tell people about online auctions all the time? Be careful of that +1 button.
Yeah.
Well, he was at 19. I went to go hit +1. Someone else hit 20 right at the same time, so I got him for 21. I was okay with it, but I liked him better at 20. I was like, okay, I'll go 20. We'll see if someone tops that. I guess it's a happy accident, though, if you look at, because he was the cheapest of the big 6. So,
yeah, I think he's. I don't think he's at the. Yeah, he's in the middle of the big 6. He's fine. It was fine. I saw Iglesias was 22. I would maybe pay an extra $1 for Iglesias. Maybe not.
Yeah, me too.
I think I might, but I don't really care that much. It's good. It's good. Romano. I love Romano, but Romano at 23. I'd rather have Presley at 21 or Iglesias at 22 or Hendricks at 23.
Right.
Yeah, and I'd rather have all
There
those
might have been
players.
some +1 issues there. I
Yeah,
don't know
for
the
sure.
ordering after that because I had already had Presley, obviously. I was trying to nominate closers at that point.
Mhm,
But I did resolve that I wanted one of the stable closers. Uh,
mhm.
I think that plays very well in a mono league
Yep.
because they also their ratios help you. Even their Ks per, you don't have an innings cap or anything, but let's face it, there's not 10 starters you want to start. There's excuse me, like yeah, you're not including like streaming. There's not a ton of starters that you want to start in a mono league, so
Mhm.
it's okay. Funny thing is, I went in, I ended up spending $97 out of my 260 budget on pitching. Did not plan that, but I kept on finding pitchers that I liked. And when you do
And it's a
that,
trading
you
league.
take it. It's a trading league. You accumulate the Ks, you accumulate the wins, hopefully, and good ratios, and trade from strength. I just say, and the thing is, if the league is valuing hitting higher, well, it's okay to zig. I went and got Alek Manoah for 22. That was a target. Luis Garcia at 19, or excuse me, 21, and Luis Garcia for 19 was also a target. Each were at the cap of what I was willing to bid. But I didn't want to like stay away from pitchers I liked later just because I had spent on pitching early. When Patrick Sandoval was stalling out, I got him at 10. Same thing with Tristan McKenzie at 7. I just kept on thinking, okay, this is a good price. I'm just going to jump in. I'll worry about the balance later. You don't have to have the balance in an auction.
Nope. No, you're right. That's exactly right. You don't have to. You can trade. And this is a trading league and an auction league. You don't have to have balance. What you need to come out of the auction with is players you believe in and that you think are going to do well this year, and then just see where it goes from there. I mean, you want to have like a little bit of balance so you don't fall way behind in like all your
Right.
pitching categories or all your hitting categories, and then it's not recoverable. But um, yeah, but you don't have to have that balance. So you could have had, for example, instead of Manoa and Luis Garcia, you could have had Garrett Cole. So
True. And I thought he was.
I'm just throwing this out here. Do you wish you had Garrett Cole? I don't think that Cole was like a deal at 37. He's fine. That's
I thought
fine.
you might have been a buck or two cheap.
Right.
But then again, it was the exact same price in AL labor. So, according to the industry, that's the value. That's the price, at least in two major drafts. Uh, I, I'm happy with the way it went. I mean, it's also two spots I'm accounting for, which
Yep.
I kind of want.
It's a lot like accumulation matters in those onlys, right? Because we can't
Mhm.
stream, like you just said, we can't just find more and more starters on the waiver wire. So you're going to get whatever 300 innings from Garcia and Manoa, 320, whatever, and you can't get that from Cole and a $1 pitcher.
Right. I
So
think the question to ask is, did I acquire enough hitting? And I felt
right.
like last year I didn't get enough at bats. I still don't know if I did here. Kind of depends. Like especially after buying Vlad and then later Rafael Devers for 34, who I also thought was a couple bucks light. It
Totally a
was
good
one of
price.
those
Yeah.
where I was stalling out. I decided not to let someone else get him for 33, and I forget who it was. Probably should know these things, who the second place person is, so you can trade later. But I I wanted to get, kind of focus on getting more at bats. So what happened is I skewed a lot of the hitters in the teens. I have like
Hmm.
Laureano at 13, I have Donaldson at 17, but most of my hitters are high single digits. And I tried to focus on playing time. Like Adam Frazier,
Yes.
I tweeted, I took him in TGFBI that as well. And when I got him there, I tweeted out, he does a little of everything and not a lot of anything. I think it's still true. I think he's going to accumulate a lot of plate appearances at the top of that Seattle lineup.
Yep, probably a solid OBP. Yeah, I look at these guys. You stayed out of the $1 group for the most part. Like Chaz
Yep.
McCormick, we'll see. Randall Grichuk, I think, is still going to play a fair amount. Like the Jays, I think the Jays are done for like other than maybe they find a cheap reliever who's still sitting around. But I think the Jays are basically done. So Grichuk is going to be a most of the time player for them. I think Andy
Yep.
Ibanez at $2 a steal in an American League only. There's lots of playing time available on the Rangers roster. Tucker Barnhart's going to play a lot on the Tigers.
Yep. That was by design to get him,
I can't
especially
believe
because
he
he
only
does
went for
better than
4.
other catchers in terms of OBP.
That's right. And I know people in mixed leagues will be like, "Oh, I don't want Tucker Barnhart. He sucks." But in an AL only with 24 catchers, like I think there's value there. I think Michael Brantley's. Well, we all know Michael Brantley's going to play. Adolis Garcia, I'm not fully convinced on what the repeat will look like, but at $7, he's going to play too. So, and then you have your good hitters, Donaldson, Polanco, Devers. I think Ramon Laureano at 13 is fine. Like, you're not going to get much replacement value for him in April because it's an AL only, but whatever. I think he can get you the $13 if he plays 5 months. So I think if he wasn't suspended, he probably would have gone for, I don't know, at least five. I think probably $5 more.
Right. And I am missing 27 to 28 games for him at least. Yep. And he might get traded ultimately. And I welcome a trade, actually. We'll see where he would land. But, new manager there. Does Mark Kotsay let his players run? Does he, I think he probably will, but because it's not like he was a statue himself. So I kind of feel like his managing philosophy would be to allow players to run. We'll see how much of he gets to be his own man versus front office running things. But I think Laureano will run.
You do have not a lot of steals. Like,
no, I don't.
Just doing quick math, I don't think you have anyone who will. Do you have anyone who will get 15 steals? Probably not.
Polanco will get about 10.
10. Yeah,
Garcia
let's say Laureano doesn't get 15, maybe a dozen.
Brandon Marsh is a little bit of a wild card.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Adolis Garcia will get about 10.
Yep.
So I guess if I was going to say, so since I gave
Chas McCormick could run too.
He could. A few.
Down at $2 down there.
Since I gave you credit so much, I'm going to say my one thing that, and now I've never done an auction where I look back and think it went perfectly.
No, of course.
There's so many variables. I don't know if I've hardly ever done a draft where I feel that way, but definitely not an auction. So I would say, looking back, I think the $8 price on Joe Barlow is good, but you probably have enough saves. You guess you can trade him. So I guess the price is good and you can trade him. The only thing I was going to say is you have Presley, and then you ended up getting 2 of the Seattle closer committee with Giles and Steckenrider. Which, like, I think that's good. So for $5, like, I know you and Scott have talked about this, and I agree. It's going to be a closer committee. I think it could be a committee all season. I think that fits kind of what Seattle is willing to do. But those guys are in it. And in a mixed league, that's annoying because you don't even want to play them, and then you miss the saves, and then you play them one week and they don't get any saves. Then you don't play them the next week and they get a save. But in an AL only, those guys are just going to go in your lineup and stay there all season. So you're actually going to, if Giles gets a dozen saves, you're going to get them all, and if Steckenrider gets 7, you're going to get them all. So I think maybe instead of the $8 on Joe Barlow, I guess you could have taken one of your hitters and $8 improved him. So, and maybe then picked up some steals in the process. So maybe you take, I don't know, Adam Frazier at 9. Maybe that's I guess it can't be 8. It can be 7 more. Maybe that's a $16 hitter with some speed.
Right. Or, I get a better outfielder than I got late, or a better middle infielder than Andy Ibanez. Get a $10 middle than instead of a $2 middle, or a $10 UT instead of Grichuk.
But if Joe Barlow has 4 or 5 saves at the end of April, you can for sure trade him for someone who has some speed.
And clearly that was a function of when Barlow came out and when Giles and Steckenrider came out. Giles came out at pick 168. So at that point, people kind of decided what they were going to do with their relievers. And so, I think Sewald went for 8, for instance. Now it might be worth it. Sewald's awesome. He gets you more strikeouts. He doesn't have health concerns. I get why he's more expensive. So trust me, it's not a criticism at all, but it's different. And, Doug Dennis was accumulating pitchers like that. In fact, if I can find his roster, you can see what he did. He did this darn thing with pitching where he went all relievers. Yeah. He went Chad Green, Paul Sewald, Matt Barnes, Garrett Whitlock, Diego Castillo. So he got the other half of the Seattle combo. He got the better 2 pitchers, maybe.
Is he going to make the innings pitched minimum?
There is no innings pitched minimum in Tout Wars.
Yes, right. I remember that. See, I'm out of practice because I'm not in the NL.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's a neat strategy. And relievers are getting more wins. They got more wins last year per reliever.
Right. So maybe you're not punting wins, and maybe he can trade for it later, fab for it later. It's an interesting strategy. It might work. But I found that interesting. He got Scott. He didn't even get one of the elite closers either. He went all the most he spent on a pitcher is $14. So he should have a killer offense. And he went very top heavy with his offense, buying Ramirez, Judge, Semien, Springer, Conforto, who was eligible And that we should take the time to explain the Tout Wars rules on the free agents. And granted, it didn't affect us as much as it did labor, but it's important to realize the rules in Tout Wars were in the mono leagues. The pool froze each morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. So Trevor Story, for instance, on Sunday morning was eligible for the NL because he hadn't yet signed with Boston. He signed right around the start of the draft, around 10 o'clock. So thus he was still eligible. But whereas labor, they froze the top 12 free agents according to the NFBC ADP 2 weeks prior, before the lockout had even ended. So they had to do something different. But we just happened to have a little extra eligibility, which was interesting too. So that's why, like Conforto, he no matter where Conforto signs, he'll be eligible. You get him. And if he signs with an NL team, it's as if he got traded to that NL team, and so you get to keep the stats.
Yes, yeah, and that's a big part of your draft plan. I think Doug's pitching staff's interesting. Well, I'll see how many saves he gets. He does have Scott Barlow. He did the draft skills over roles in some ways.
Yeah,
right. I mean, although those skills play really in a mono league. So yeah,
sure.
I'm interested to see how that pitching staff turns out.
Yeah. So it's fun. A fun league. Any other things? Any other observations about Tout Wars before we move on?
I don't think so. I'm just kind of looking through some of these values. Nope, I'm ready. Let's talk about your NFBC main event, because I'm jealous that I can't go to Vegas. I missed Tout Wars. Now I'm not going to Vegas. So
You're going to do one online though, right?
I am not doing a main event team this year. I'm in the Super instead.
Okay, fair enough.
I have a Super in a couple weeks.
Okay.
It's April 6th.
Very good. Okay, before we talk NFBC main, quick note from our friends at Fantrax. You were just looking at their results board there. Are you looking for a new platform for your fantasy baseball league? Fantrax's free MLB Fantasy League Manager is the most customizable, easy to use, and feature-rich platform in the industry. Fantrax offers the most in-depth player pool in the industry, including minor league players. It's true that their minor league players were all available when we're looking for them. Guys to bring up in the auction. Fantrax offers dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Coming from another service, Fantrax makes the process easy. Fantrax can import any of your current leagues and customize if needed. Sign up for free today and be entered to win Fantrax's MLB Game Day experience, which includes tickets to any MLB regular season game for your entire league and $1,000 towards travel and accommodations. All you have to do is host your fantasy baseball league on Fantrax to be entered. The more leagues you create, the more chances you have to win. Simply go to fantrax.com/RotoWire and sign up today. Big thanks to Fantrax for their sponsorship. That was, it really is a good service. I did like running the league there. So this is an endorsement. I like their system. Okay. Switching gears, NFBC main event. I've got the number 3 slot in Vegas. Me and Tim Schuler are sharing a team on Saturday, and he and I will be drafting from the 3 slot. It was one of our top 5 preferences, so I'm pretty happy getting this 3 slot here, Fred.
Yeah, I think it would have been in my top 3 preferences, and it probably for me would have been either first or second. I think so. I'm obviously not going to make you say who you're going to draft or what your plan is. Instead, I'll say what I would have done, since I don't have any say over it. But I would probably take one of Turner, Ramirez, or Bichette, because I feel like that's a nice foundation of power and speed, and then just gives you a lot of flexibility after that. And then I would stress that starting pitching is going to get way pushed up because it's the main event. Yeah,
and so I love the slot. But then you start looking at some of the carnage in the first round. Tatis gone. We'll see. I mean, Acuna is still probably going to be drafted before me. If you look at recent ADP in the last week, that's been the case. But at the same time, you never know. But you're right. Starting pitching to the point, where I am comfortable is a little I don't know. We might still end up doing. I want to say we, not I, because it's Tim and I. We both have to decide. Julio Urias in the late second, early third is a possibility.
Yep.
I don't want to take Alcantara. I don't think I want to take Wheeler there.
There's Nola you could consider.
Yes.
I'm just listing that group, right? That group that in a regular league, I'm just assuming main event inflation on starting pitching. So that group that goes in the 3rd round of a regular league, I'm going to guess that maybe you try to tab one of them on the way back in the second round before you get, because those guys in the turn will also probably have no pitchers.
Yeah. Well, no, that's not necessarily
Garrett Cole
true.
Goes.
So here's the thing. Toby, Bat Flip Crazy, is drafting second.
Might take Cole.
I would say better than 50% chance he takes Cole. We'll see. I don't think he's going to tell me.
Yep.
I will ask him. And Jody Ryan picks first. I'm pretty sure he's going to take a hitter. But I think that whether Toby takes that starter is up for debate. But I'm really interested to see what he does. I think that he's definitely someone that that is someone that will be willing to take the pitcher there. And in fact, you see this in the main event a lot, that Cole will often go. I think it'll only be Cole. I don't think DeGrom will go, but you never know.
Also thinking it's in a KDS setting, the fact that Toby's picking second means he probably really wanted to pick second, since it's probably, I don't know, you can see on your league the order that they were chosen in, but I'm going to guess it was one of Toby's first priorities. Usually those top picks, you know what I mean? You're not the 10th name out of the hat to get second pick.
I mean, I don't mind saying who I want to take here, Fred, because there's no state secrets here. I mean, it's obvious. He's going to take who he wants. He doesn't care what I'm going to take. I want J-Ram. I want Ramirez.
Right.
That's my goal.
And Turner, if Ramirez and Turner are gone, do you want to tell us that or no?
So that's I need to talk to Tim more about this, but I debate between Soto, Bichette, and Cole. And I don't know who I take. Right now, my personal, using my rankings, we're doing a composite set of rankings, actually. It will be posting either late tonight or sometime tomorrow, is Soto. Okay. But I can see the case for Bichette. I can see the case for Cole. I'll tell you what, if you take Cole, then you can go hitter in 2-3.
Yeah.
Very comfortably. Or even take a closer there if you want. I also see it. I can also see a world where I go hitter to start too, because if the starters get taken that I want, if Nola goes before me, for instance, and I'm not comfortable with Urias, then there's like, I probably won't take Bieber. I probably won't take Alcantara. I probably, there's a limit to the number of people I think I'm going to take there.
Yeah. So getting Cole is, I think, is like kind of the safe thing to do, because then it just gets your ace out of the way. And then you could go pitcher heavy, or you could not and draft a bunch of hitters in a row. But if there's pitcher inflation, you're just like, whatever. Like at the beginning, you're just like, whatever. I already got Cole. I'm fine. Bichette, I feel like, is the same thing, where now you have 20 something steals. So then you could do whatever on the next turn. Like if there's a slugger you really like who doesn't steal much, or start two starters, or like you said, if you want to get a closer, the Soto one. So I totally agree with you that Soto, I don't have Soto ahead of Bichette, but I do have him like right there on just SGPs and ranking them out. It bothers me a little bit that I think the Nationals lineup kind of sucks. Like it's good in a few spots. Like Cesar Hernandez is their leadoff hitter. That's not good. The Soto Nelson Cruz is good, like kind of, but Nelson Cruz as a number 3 hitter nowadays, like, he's fine. He's not awesome. As comparing him to good lineups, number 3 hitters, and then Josh Bell, and then it kind of drops off. And so that bothers me a bit with Soto. But my problem with Soto is kind of similar to the Vlad problem, where I don't have steals and I don't have any pitching, but I do have a really good hitter. Yeah. And it's a draft, so not an auction, so I can't get creative in my ways.
It's a 15 teamer also, so I don't even mind that it's an outfielder.
Totally.
There's a lot of other shortstops I like in the first 10 rounds. I'll have to take them, but I like them. So that's a route. I mean, it's going to be a lot of soul searching here, but it's a good problem to have. That's why 5 was actually my first choice because of that.
Right. Yeah, you just take whoever's left out of the 5 names we've said so far.
Right. Although it's kind of a cop-out when you think about it. That you're just, I'll just take what's given me there, instead of like affirmatively choosing. Well, I really want Turner, but then
you hope your benefit is that you get a little better shot at someone maybe who falls in the second round than if you were picking 3rd or 4th.
That's
maybe someone you like in the second round falls a bit.
Right. And, maybe you get Yordan Alvarez. Maybe you get Teoscar. I don't think either of those come to me in the second. Oh, well, you'll see.
I think Teoscar does. I think.
Well, especially now that he kind of tweaked his wrist, maybe
that's pitching is pushed. And if pitching is pushed up,
yeah.
And if steals, I don't know. I could see Teoscar. in the labor draft, in our labor draft, I picked second and took Teoscar in the second round.
Yeah, that was a while ago though.
Yeah, and took Teoscar. So I think he'll come to you if you wanted him. There you go. You could start Bichette, Teoscar, and just ride
go
that
Jays
lineup.
Get Manoah later. Get
Springer on the 4-5.
Get Romano. Let's go crazy Jays here.
Yeah.
Jay stack. Let me ask you though. Assuming if Teoscar, Tim Anderson, those guys are gone, and Cedric Mullins is even gone because he sometimes is there, sometimes is not. He goes as early as 23. He can go as late third sometimes too. Like I'm a little uncomfortable with Whit Merrifield that early. I think there's a lot of bad StatCast data on him, but then again, it's speed in 2 positions. So there's a little bit of a trade-off. I mean, you could take, are you willing to take Matt Olson there?
No, I'm actually okay with Whit Merrifield. Just because it's speed and batting average and it's multi-position and it's an infield outfield multi-position. So I just think there's a lot of nice little bonuses there as long as he keeps running. I'm actually more interested in him than a couple of the names you already mentioned.
Yeah.
I think Sal Perez is interesting, although taking a catcher on the 2-3 turn feels tough, but that's where he goes, and I get it.
Well, and the thing is, if I want one of the top 3 catchers, I got to take it at 3-3 because Smith and Real Muto aren't coming back to me.
No, they're not. I'll give you another one, and I think he's going to rise now, is Trevor Story.
Yeah. I agree.
Power speed mix.
Let's talk Trevor Story. Signed with the Red Sox. Going to get second base eligibility real quick.
Yep.
That is going to be something that really helps. We're going to like that. I like that he's a righty in Fenway, not a lefty. Question about where he hits in the lineup, but I mean, I can't imagine it being worse than 5th.
Yeah, he's not hitting 8th. Like he's either going to hit in front of all those good guys or after them. So I feel like I'd love for him to hit second or something like that. And there'll be injuries and he'll be in the top 5 somewhere all the time.
Yeah. Does he run more hitting second or does he run more hitting 5th? Like he doesn't have, JD and Devers behind him. He scores fewer runs, but maybe he runs more.
Because he gets more plate appearances hitting second. So maybe he's on base.
Well, and he has those 2 big boppers knocking him in.
That's right.
Although Dahlbeck's going to knock him in a lot of times too, I think. I think that I like what this does for lengthening that Boston lineup. You talked about long lineups.
Yeah.
Dahlbeck with more guys on base, that's a good thing. I'm curious to see if Enrique Hernandez stays in the leadoff spot all year long, because that's actually a little bit of a wild card. Because when I think about it, you've got Story, JD, Devers, Bogarts. Hernandez is kind of the odd fit a little bit. Dahlbeck, Christian Vasquez is going to be all right in there. Verdugo could hit as low as 8, 7th or 8th.
Verdugo could hit leadoff. Like Verdugo played mostly hit it second last year, so
that's true.
He's an on base guy. They could move him to first.
So either Verdugo or Enrique Hernandez could lose out somewhat on this in terms.
Or
of
how about Story hitting first since he steals more bases?
That would be interesting.
Right?
Maybe he gets fewer RBI because of that, but maybe he just becomes Ricky. Yeah. The 2022 version of Ricky Henderson too.
And you can get a decent amount of RBIs hitting leadoff in a good American League lineup, right? George Springer, for example, has shown us that.
Yeah.
As a good power hitter hitting leadoff in good American League lineups. So maybe Story ends up hitting leadoff. I don't think we know yet, but I think that the one thing I've noticed is as these players have signed, most of them have signed into good situations, which we probably should have seen coming because bad teams don't tend to sign good free agents. And they I see their draft prices go up as soon as they sign. So I'm just going to assume that Story, who is like a mid-third in a 15 team, is now going to go. I think he might even go in the second round. And if not, like the early third. That's my guess.
Yeah.
I would say I'm going to guess he's not there when you pick in the third round.
I might take him in the second. I might be the reason for that.
You could. That'd be a fun little start. Something like Bichette and Story, or actually that would allow you to take Juan Soto and Story, because then you get 10 steals from Soto, but 20 from Story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That might be an out for that, and still get a decent pitcher at 3-3, or I might wait till 4 and 5 and double up too. That's also a possibility. It really depends on what the draft gives us there, right? That's if the league goes crazy on starting pitching, All right. Well, I'll just take 3 awesome hitters. I think that might be the out for that. You're going to have to catch up eventually, but I think it can be done. Although it's worth saying the top 5 people in the main event last year overall all started with a pitcher in the first round. So you never know. That's the argument in favor of Cole. You go Cole and you go 4 awesome hitters is another way to build that.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's totally an option too. Let me ask you, so closers have been a big story so far this draft season because they're going earlier on average, but there's been a lot of draft champions leagues. Mm-hmm. I just assumed that once we hit the fab leagues, they would start to slide down. That being said, we know that closer prices are usually fairly aggressive in main event leagues. So do you think that, where do you think, say, not in your league necessarily, but the average main event league this weekend coming up, where does Hendricks go? Where does Hader go? What do you think? Where does guys like Presley?
I was going to ask you this, Fred, because I think they're in play for that 2-3 turn pick for me. I think that's a possibility. I don't think I want to start off Cole with one of those because I just think I'm giving up too much hitting talent. Mm-hmm. I want to have at least, either the stud hitter in the first round or 2 hitters in 2-3. Mm-hmm. But I never know. I mean, I'll let you try to talk me into it. But what do you do with? Do you really think one of those top closers gets you at 58 or 63? That's the question. And even then,
define top. Does that include Ryan Presley from your AL team?
Yes, it does.
I'm going to say as long as you're flexible, then I think as long as you're flexible on those guys and not married to 1 or 2 of them, then I'm going to say you get one of those on the 4 or 5 turn. I know you don't want Chapman, and I think that's okay. Right. I think you can still have your boundaries here, and not just say I'm going to take any of them. But but if your group includes Iglesias, Clase, Presley, Diaz, does one of those make it to you in round 4? I'll say yes.
Yeah. Answer to Miguel, yes. Miguel's 1162. Is Clase a top closer? Yes. Emmanuel Clase is a top closer. I like him a lot.
Is Kenley Jansen in that list? Could he go on the 4 or 5 turn?
That's a good question. We haven't talked yet about his acquisition with the Braves. Mm-hmm. I think he gets, because of where he landed, he may get fewer saves than he would have other places because they have so many other viable options. They're not going to do back-to-backs with him often, I think. Will Smith can step right in and get saves. Colin McHugh can step right in and pitch. I think Tyler Matzik is very good. I think they have a lot of good pitchers. Yeah, great bullpen. Yeah. And so they have alternatives to try to protect him. But as far as the top list goes,
Will Smith that again. I was going to say Will Smith did get 37 last year. So if the Braves are as good as they were last year,
I just think they're going to be more dispersed.
Kenley could get 30.
Yeah, 30 is fine. Yeah. 30 gets you on your way, but the others might be getting 35 to 40, right? And so that's the question.
Yes, there might be a Kenley ceiling where he just doesn't get the workload to get 38 saves, which I feel like when you draft Ryan Presley, it's just a luck factor. Like if he's fortunate, he could get 38 saves. If he's unfortunate, like he was last year, maybe he doesn't. He maybe gets 28 saves, just as far as Astros and leads and save opportunities and things like that. Jansen just may not have the workload where he could get 38 saves.
Right. That's right. So, but he's in that group, but towards the bottom of it.
Okay.
But Hader, Hendricks, Raisel Iglesias, clearly part of it. Clase is probably my 4th closer. I like Presley a little bit better than Edwin Diaz. I like Romano better than Edwin Diaz, especially now that Kenley's off the market. I guess there are options like Merriweather and Yimi Garcia, but there's no external option right now unless they trade for Kimbrel.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't think Kimbrel also didn't finish the season well. I don't see why a team with a closer, unless they see something from Kimbrel in spring training they really like, I don't see why a team with a closer that they like would want to pay Kimbrel and take a chance that maybe he wasn't good late last season. I would want to see him in spring training. Now, if I was a team that was desperate for a closer, that'd be different. Like a team where I thought, okay, I've got a decent team here, but I don't have anyone I like as a closer. Let's say the Phillies didn't have Knebel. They had just signed the other guys, Brad Hand etc. Then I would be like, okay, sure, let's take a shot on Kimbrel. I'm trying to think of a team off the top of my head that would work for. That's also a decent team, and maybe actually Boston might be,
or the Dodgers.
Yeah, except Blake Treinen is really good.
Yeah, but they've also said they don't necessarily want to use him as a traditional closer.
I guess so. If you just sweat money like the Dodgers, and
so,
right?
but they don't spend. They don't spend like the Mets. At least they do. I mean, they spend, but you notice that most they do more trading than they do free agents.
Yeah.
Of course, Kimbrel would be a trade, but I digress. Does Treinen graduate into the bottom end of that group? Like, is he right there with Romano and Jansen?
Bottom end of that group, I feel like
okay,
like he could lead the majors in saves. Like
he could.
He's the closer right now, we think, on probably the best team in baseball. So he could lead the majors in saves. The problem is he hasn't been their closer. We're not 100%. They haven't come out and just said he's our closer. And it's the Dodgers who are always tinkering and aggressive. And even if he starts here as their closer, maybe they trade for one of these guys that we've mentioned in the summer, right? We've always heard the Josh Hader Dodger rumors for years, and they never happened. And I don't think they're ever going to happen because the Brewers are a really good team. But, maybe the Mets fall out of the race and they grab Edwin Diaz and then bump Treinen down to another role. Who knows what they might end up doing, but it's the Dodgers. Maybe they grab Kimbrel, but I could see that too, because we know the Dodgers are always all in.
So, assuming you get shut out on the quote unquote top tier, we're going to not include, we'll not include Treinen in that group. You rank these guys for me, or choose out which ones you do and do not want as maybe your alternative. And you're going to probably have to get your second one sooner because of this. We'll start, this is in order of NFBC ADP. Gallegos, we've discussed him earlier, but Treinen, who else? Melanson, Knebel. I'm going to throw in Taylor Rogers in that group. And obviously not Will Smith anymore. Scott Barlow. We'll go down to that.
Okay. Melanson, gross. Not interested. I would be interested in Melanson if he was on a better team, but the fact that he's not good and his team's so bad, pass.
Okay.
Gallegos, pass, because there's something about him where they just don't seem to want to make him the closer. Maybe he'll end up being the closer, like Alex Reyes is out now. Like maybe they just have no other options, but it seems like it just constantly stares them in the face that he should be their closer, and they just don't make that happen. So I feel like they just really don't want him in that role. And I don't think that's a shot on him. I think role. So pass, because at that point in the draft, I'm not taking a risk on a guy who gets me 8 saves.
Sure.
Right. And I think he'll get more than 8 saves this year, but I'm not going there.
I mean, just look at the Cardinals. I know they said they want to use him in lots of different, or they didn't even say that they want to use him in different roles. They said they didn't want to commit
to a closer. That's right.
But who else do they have? I mean, I understand there's always a risk of playing the who else game, but who else do they have? Hicks. I mean, Hicks they're trying to stretch out. Reyes, he walks too many guys, and he just got an injection for his shoulder.
Yep.
Is there anybody else? Who else is good?
It would be randoms. It would be like the Rays all over again. It'd be just randoms.
I mean, we have a new manager too.
Or anyone who comes out throwing hot in April, and they let him have some turns.
I mean, yes, that's the whole conceit of the who else part. Is there's always a who else. There's
I'll
always
set an
another
over under on 15 saves for Gallegos. What do you?
I'll take it over. I think he gets like 20 to 25.
Too. You said 25?
20 to 25.
Okay. Then you should be taking him around that spot because he's a really good pitcher. Like he's
a great pitcher.
Yes. His ratios will help you more than a lot of
the Cardinals will be good this year. I mean, losing Flaherty for a while is going to hurt them. They were a way worse team without him. However, the Reds are tanking. The Pirates are tanking. The Cubs, I'm not really sure what they're doing. They're kind of in between. The Brewers are very good. The Brewers, I would take every over bet on the Brewers right now. At least I should actually look at the line first, but I think they're a strong favorite in their division. And even I think they have a reasonably strong chance of even getting to the World Series. I would explore some futures odds on them and see what I like, try to find the best odds you can get on that. But I think the Brewers are overlooked as one of the powers in the National League. Everyone's focused on the Dodgers, the Braves, the Mets, for good reason. But the Brewers are really a damn good team.
Brewers starting pitching is so good. They're I agree with you.
I think they're well run. I think they're managed. I think Craig Counsell's a very good manager. I think that matters. I think all of these things are good. All right.
Okay,
Let's
sorry,
move on.
I didn't finish your list, and I don't want to cheat the
Oh,
people who are
sorry.
listening. Trinan at the top because the upside of him, no one else can touch, like him
Yeah.
as the Dodgers closer. I feel better about some of these other guys that you just mentioned now that Jansen has signed.
Yes.
Not that I necessarily thought he would sign with these teams, but let's be honest, he signed with Atlanta, and we didn't see that coming at all. So I really
Nobody
felt
sees
like,
that coming.
yes, I
No.
really felt like we didn't really know. So now I feel a little better about Taylor Rogers. I feel a little better about Scott Barlow. I feel a little better about Corey Knable. I think they'll all probably open the season as closers. If there's one of those three that I probably worry about the most, it's probably Rogers, even though I think he's the best pitcher of those three, because I feel a little bit of a Gallegos vibe with him, where I'm just not totally sure that the Twins want him to be a closer for them, or if they would rather use him in other more versatile
Yeah.
ways. So
I
he's
feel
the
better about Rogers now than I did a month ago, though, to be honest with you.
okay. I felt great about him at the start of draft, like back in January. I felt great about him, except it's just that hanging concern over just
Yeah.
he did have 30 saves 2 years ago, I guess. And he did have 9 in the shortened season. That paces out to about 25. So maybe I'm worrying too much. He only had 9 last year. I don't know. Maybe and they kind of went with Colomé down the stretch last year. I don't know. But I feel good about him. I think he's a really good pitcher. I think how about I'm just going to throw outside the box ideas at you for your I guess the fact that Rogers didn't pitch late last year is the reason they went with Colomé, the more I remember.
Mm-hmm.
How about getting 2 guys from that tier and then you don't have to use such an early pick on a closer?
Well, I think it's almost, if you don't
Or
get
do
the
you think
early
that's
closer,
impossible?
I think it's a plan to get 2 of those guys. I think it's almost necessary in an overall contest, because then you're forced. You don't want to have a shakier guy later as your number 2 closer, like I did in TGFBI, for instance, where I have Kimbrel as my number 2 closer
Mm-hmm.
and Soto is there. And, I granted, I'm piecing together, but then you're using more roster spots and you're not guaranteed you're getting the saves anyhow. And you might have to have 3 relievers active for that matter too every week. You want to have optionality. It's okay. It's okay to have 3 relievers active when you choose to, but you don't want to be forced to have to do it. You don't want to be chasing saves. That's why I don't want David Bednar, because the Pirates are going to lose like a lot of games, and there'll be weeks where he just doesn't close. And then, there's other weeks where it'll be okay. So I don't know. I think it's going to be okay. But I don't want to be in that situation. Bednar's a good pitcher, but how many saves are the Pirates really going to get? How many saves? That's why
he could get traded too, right?
Or
Just
he could
like
be, or they could go
Rodriguez
Stratton. They
last
want to
year.
use him and trade him. They could be using
Right.
Bednar as your ace reliever.
That's right. Yeah. So I agree with you. I have no Bednar shares so far. A lot of people like him. I get it. The Pirates scare me away. So let's say the 8-9 turn, because you do have a bit of a turn in you. Pick 3. Like I would be. You wouldn't want to pick them 2 rounds in a row where you go the like almost 2 full rounds in between the picks. On the 8-9 turn, if you grab 2 of these guys like Rogers and Knable, is that too risky?
I just did it in a mock draft today. Maybe not on the turn. Maybe not. I think I did it like took 1 and then waited. I did Rogers before Knable. Knable kind of slipped a little bit in that one there, but it's just all that is
Because
kind of.
that would allow you to start with 7 players before you take a reliever and probably get 4 or 5 really good hitters and 2 or 3 really good starters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But is that, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud as we go through your plan here, but
Yeah.
is it too much hoping and wishing that 2 guys at the Taylor Rogers Knable tier that they both keep their jobs and get you 30 saves each? It might be too optimistic. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you might be better to suck it up and take one of those guys, but then also take a class A or something.
Yeah. There's a couple different routes you can go there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I want to keep my options open. Preferably get a top guy and get one of those second tier guys would be nice. Or I get 2 of those second tier guys and then definitely get a third. If I get 2, 1 top and 1 second, I may wait really long to get a third reliever. So but we'll really see what the draft gives us too. I don't want to commit to any one sort of thing there as far as that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on to news topics, and we have plenty to talk about, got a quick note from our friends at Thrive. So let's share it. We're going to do a couple notes here just to bang them out. Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive is an exciting player prop fantasy contest. With Thrive Fantasy, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus on only the top tier athletes to have the biggest impact on the game. Sign up for Thrive Fantasy today and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. Here's how you claim your free RotoWire subscription. 1, visit rotowire.com/thrive. 2, deposit a minimum of $10 and receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. 3, play in your first paid contest and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. We're also going to share a note from our friends at Better Edge. Do you think your betting skills are good enough to win you tickets to the Final Four? It's time to put your money where your mouth is. Better Edge is giving away a trip for 2 to the Final Four in New Orleans. All you have to do is join their contest at betteredge.com/Final Four. Better Edge believes sports betting with no fees should be the norm, and odds are it's legal in your state. Check it out and enter their March Madness contest for a chance to win a trip to the Final Four. Head on over to betteredge.com/Final Four. That's BETTOR edge.com/Final Four. Terms and conditions apply. Finally, we're going to share a quick note from our notes from our friends on the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Thanks to Blue Wire, we have been running our podcast on their network for a while now, so happy to be there. Okay, Fred, news and notes, copious of them. I want to start off with my Reds, Luis Castillo. Shoulder soreness, but not horrible soreness or anything. He's not getting shut down. In fact, he's doing long toss, but he's going to be behind. How much are you downgrading Luis Castillo?
Oh, I was never in on Luis Castillo, so this one wasn't going to be a big one for me. Hey, he'll miss the months of the year where he always pitches bad anyways. So I'm going to lower the innings. I'll lower the innings, I'll lower the strikeouts, but I'll also lower his ratios and make them better since he's not going to pitch till May. No, I'll probably take off, just to be safe, I might take off 30 innings. That's going to drop him a fair amount though.
In the last week, he's player 103, range of 75 to 132. He's gone down some because the Reds are just stinky. So that already is discounting him, but I still wasn't there. I needed, it was getting closer to where the price I was willing to pay on, but I'm very wary of him this year. The bad starts, the high whip, the fewer swings and misses on the changeup, the park context could change though. Team context could change that.
Yep.
If he does get dealt, but so far they're not dealing him.
Yeah, when Sonny Gray got dealt, I was hoping Castillo would get dealt down to a Southern team, maybe that doesn't have to play as many cold weather games at the start of the year and in that ballpark all year. And let's see how he does. But yeah, I'm kind of out on him. And now I'll have him quite low. I like at 132, I think was the latest pick you said, and I'm still out.
Okay, I'm outish as well. On the other hand, you sound like you're a little bit more optimistic about Yu Darvish. Had a good spring training outing on Monday. Is that true, or are you just baiting and switching me here?
No, I've looked a little more at his 2021 season. Like, it was so bad in the second half that I felt like when the off season started and when January draft started, I said, no, I'm not touching him. I don't know. Like, his strikeout rate in the second half was pretty much the same. His walk rate was pretty much the same. He gave up more home runs and he struggled to strand base runners. I think strand rate was like 61%, which is really bad. And those two things, knocked him to the point where you couldn't even use him in the second half. You would have been better off to just drop him at the All-Star break. I don't think it's a sticky stuff thing totally, because he actually had a couple really nice starts right after the ban. So
that was the thing that's so frustrating about him is even when in the depths of his terribleness, he'd have a gem and they're like, okay, he's fixed.
Yeah.
And then he'd get roasted again.
I think he's been a good pitcher for a long time. I don't have him really high, but in that kind of Charlie Morton, Alek Manoah type tier, I think he belongs in there.
I was just about to start doing either or with you. You ready?
Okay.
Morton and Manoah.
Give me Darvish
over both of those. Okay. Trevor Rogers.
Give me Rogers. I have no Rogers shares, and I wish I did. He's a FOMO guy for me so far this year.
Yeah, yeah. You wish he'd pitch in Rogers center for your Jays.
Yes,
and
I
then it'd
would.
be
That would be
Rogers.
great. Yeah.
Um,
I think people forget that Trevor Rogers wasn't hurt last year. He had a family problem with COVID
Yeah.
and he went home. It's a totally different situation.
I don't think he's getting discounted. I think he's getting priced accordingly.
Yeah, me too. Well, I have no shares, so I guess I do think he's getting priced
I got him in the online
I keep
championship.
being close to drafting him, and then I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frankie Montas might get traded, might stay in Oakland.
Yeah, I'll take Montas.
Okay. Carlos Rodon in San Francisco.
I'll take Darvish. I'm just not there on the innings with Rodon.
Yeah. I won't go too much lower than where he's already at if you already think he's priced. And okay, that pretty much exhausts that tier. So there you go. All right, let's take a look at some other things on the list. Oh, big elephant in the room. Can't believe we haven't talked about this yet.
For an hour in, what is it?
New York. Yes. What the heck? We've talked about it before. We're like, and we didn't get assurances, but we had people proclaiming it's going to be okay. They'll figure it out. Then Eric Adams today, the mayor of New York, said, "No, that hasn't been figured out yet. Don't count on it. If we do something, we don't even know if professional sports is going to be first in line." Seems like he wants to have his day. He's just trying to hold this over sometimes. Am I wrong about feeling this way?
No, it seems like New York is not going to back down on this. To me, I'm getting the vibe that backing down on this would feel like pro sports ran them over and they just have their backup where they don't want that to be the case.
Yeah.
Right. They don't want that to make, I saw this in Canada at multiple times in the last 2 years where there'd be rules in place. And then people would be like, are you going to change those rules? Because it would really benefit the Leafs or it would really benefit the Blue Jays. And those were tough decisions for the government because you don't want to make people feel like you're changing and bending rules on behalf of pro sports teams. It seems like that this is, a hill that they want to die on where they're not going to change these. They've done it with Kyrie Irving all winter. They won't bend it for him.
Yeah. Is there something they're trying to hold over the team? Like change the bond issue or something like that? I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't know if they think it just, I don't know. And again, I don't live in America, so I don't get a great feel for especially in New York State or New York City for what the mask type rules and vaccination type rules are there. So I don't have a lot to naturally compare it to. Whenever all these decisions come up where I am, I can compare it to other things going on in society. I can't do that there to decide if I think that the rules fair or appropriate compared to what everyone else has to do. Either way,
Toronto's stringent too. I mean, you can't even enter the country if you're not vaccinated, right? I mean, that's
but you also can't enter America if you're not vaccinated.
Oh,
yeah. So actually, I would say Toronto now might be. Well, we don't have that. You don't have to be vaccinated. All the Leafs are vaccinated. We already know that, but I don't think they have to be anymore. I think that's.
But the rule for baseball is if you're not vaccinated, you don't go to Toronto. You don't even get paid. You're on unpaid leave. So I thought that was interesting.
So is going to be, are these New York players, are people just going to cross their fingers when you draft in Vegas this weekend and just say Aaron Judge round 3? Or are they going to say, it's
not like they're going to give us a checklist and say vaccinated, unvaccinated, vaccination curious. They're not going to
You're not getting that till opening day when you see the lineup come out.
Right. And
because between now and then, they'll be convincing these guys to get vaccinated, trying to.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of furious behind the scenes movement there. We don't even, people speculate about Aaron Judge, and I don't know why he got the attention first. Maybe did I miss where he was outspoken against it before? Why did they question him instead of other ones? And he was so non-committal about it. I know Anthony Rizzo was outspoken against it at one point in time, so I get why he was it. But then this came out, and the Yankees still signed him. So
I agree. So I feel like that must be anyone the Yankees traded for. So some people have talked about Josh Donaldson too, because he's kind of
a free spirit
guy. Yeah. Yes, free spirit. That's a good way to put it. But again, I'm sure the Yankees on the phone call, I don't think the Yankees are foolish enough to think that they can strong arm New York into changing this by opening day. They have to hope for that, but I don't think they can plan for that.
Right.
So I gotta think that Donaldson and Kiner Falefa are both vaccinated and that was discussed on the call.
Right. And why are the Yankees getting the lion's share of the attention on this matter?
Because they're the Yankees.
And the Mets are just like,
Well, I've heard, again, now we're just playing the Twitter detectives, but I've heard that the Mets have a really low vaccination rate. So maybe we should be more wary of Mets players.
Right. So
But I don't
going
know.
back to my main event league, because everything goes back to me.
Yes.
Of course.
Garrett Cole.
Garrett Cole and Judge at 3-3 is in the range of options.
Yep.
As is Starling Marte, who's also dealing with an oblique injury.
Yep.
You know, does that affect DeGrom? Does it affect Max Scherzer? I don't think it does, but again, we don't know. And very aggravating.
I feel like most of these guys, like especially if in New York they have they're pro athletes, they can get the one dose if they really want it, right? So I feel like most of these guys, like Kyrie Irving, is such a big story because it's such a unique situation because it's not happening to anyone else.
Well, and he's so adamant about it too,
right? But everybody
he's putting himself out there.
Yes, but everybody else who plays basketball or hockey in New York, they all got their shot, whether they wanted to or not, with the rules in place. Basically, the NHL is pretty much at 100% vaccinated because the league cracked down on it at the start of the year. And basically a bunch of guys complained and hemmed and hawed, but then they all got it because they wanted to work and they wanted to get paid and they want to play. So I feel like most of the baseball players in the end will just do it because they want to play and they want to be a part of their team and they don't want to sit out 81 games.
Let me be clear, though. It's an outrageous policy. I mean, I am pro-vaccination. I am vaccinated. I'm boosted, all that. I think it's a good thing. I think players should be vaccinated. But if you can be in the stands cheering on your favorite team and be unvaccinated, much closer to a bunch of people, much more likely to be exposed to people shouting and cheering, opening their mouth and all that right around you, as opposed to out on the field because it's a work mandate. That doesn't sit right with me. I think it's the fact that the other wildly incongruous.
And the other team can be unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't make any sense. Where like the Mets third baseman has to be vaccinated.
Oh, and don't forget it's outdoors too.
Yes.
As opposed to basketball, which is indoors. I get it, and there's close contact. It's Aaron Judge is standing out there in right field. Who's he harming?
I guess he's in the clubhouse and the dugout and everything else.
Yeah,
I guess.
I
will say
he's spitting sunflower seeds. That's he's a monster.
Yeah, I will say in Ontario it made a lot more sense because you had to be vaccinated to get into the building to watch the game, and you had to be vaccinated to play.
Right.
So at least it was the same standard.
Some consistency here.
Right. So this rule does seem like it's weirdly. So I'm assuming this rule is not designed for the professional athletes. It's designed for people in other workplaces, and then they got caught up in this and and New York is just refusing to make an exception for them.
Well, yeah. And I get it. You don't want to you don't want to bend over backwards for professional franchises, but also just doesn't make any sense either.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a real issue for us. I will avoid Judge in the third round until I know. But the thing is, how do I know about every single Met and Yankee? That's a huge universe of, very viable players. I guess at some point that risk becomes worth it, but a third round pick, no.
You're saying in the early rounds at least you would need a significant discount before you,
because there's another elite player right there, waiting for me to be plucked.
If no one wants Judge, you would take him in round 4, for example.
I think so.
Yeah,
but I would take Presley over Diaz because I don't know about Diaz. I mean, if we don't know, we don't know. I mean, it's just like the stupid steroid hunt again. Which, by the way, I mean, fine, don't do steroids. I get it, but the fact is, you think but you don't really know. We all look at him. He doesn't look like he'd be on steroids. But then, how many times did pitchers and banjo hitters get caught? Angel Sanchez, the first player that got caught, and he was a utility infielder for the Rays. You think just because he's a big, beefy, power hitting guy, that he must have taken steroids, but that wasn't always the case. Anyways, I've sidebarred enough on that one. Let's move on. Shane Baz, elbow surgery, loose bodies in his elbow. He's out won't throw for 2 to 3 weeks. That doesn't mean he's missing. He's out 2 to 3 weeks. It means he's at least out 2 to 3 weeks, as far as I'm concerned. It might push him farther back.
Yeah, so his draft price will obviously go way down. Actually, I think I can sum up Boz, Castillo, Flaherty, Sale. you can take one. They're all going to go way later than they would have, and they should, right? I'm going to want like a 3-4 round discount on Boz if I'm taking them. But you can only take like one of them. If it is NFB style 7-man bench, no IR slots, you get like one.
Right.
I don't even think you should take two, because you know what? By the second or third week of the season, you're gonna have 2 or 3 more injured guys.
The second or third week of spring training, for that matter,
right?
Too.
On your roster.
Yeah.
Like, I can already look at my labor roster. I already have like 2 or 3 guys who are going to open the season on the IL that were healthy when we drafted 3 weeks ago or a month ago or whatever.
Presumably healthy. Yes.
Yes. Actually, Chris Sale was not, and nobody told me about it. Thank you. But
yeah.
But anyways, you get like one. So you can get Boz a few rounds later. You can get Castillo a few rounds later. You can try Flaherty a few rounds later. Sale, pick one. And that's it. You just can't take 2 or 3 of them because you won't have bench space. Well, you will, but it's going to come at a big cost.
Yeah,
so
it is. It is. And of those, who are you discounting the most? Like, not who's the lowest, but who is the guy that you're like, I will just not take him now.
Okay, so I dropped Flaherty. I'd say I discounted the most, and then Sale.
Me too.
Flaherty, I just don't trust. I'm just not drafting him. Sale, there's no timeline for this injury, and it's a little funky, and people seem to be having a hard time deciding how long he's going to be out. So I did drop him significantly.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Boz, I only projected for 21 starts to begin with, so because I thought the Rays might workload manage him a little bit.
So that's an interesting aspect for Boz. If you thought that they were going to manage him, and that maybe he would have spent some time in the minors to limit his innings or have starts skipped or whatever, maybe he throws almost all the innings you were expecting. Maybe he just comes back from this procedure and then they don't have to pace him. That would be the optimistic scenario. I still dropped him.
Yeah. Before I was willing to draft him above his projection on the notion that he has a lot of upside. Though maybe he has fewer innings, but those innings are valuable, super valuable innings.
Mm-hmm.
Now I need a discount off that projection. I haven't lowered it yet, but I'm gonna need some sort of discount, because you're already having, it's not that you get replacement value, it's that you have to have replacement value for him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's tough. Let's hit a couple more notes, and then we got some questions at the end here. O'Neal Cruz. I've seen conflicting things with O'Neal Cruz. He's hit 2 spring training homers. I've also seen that he's not guaranteed to make the opening day roster, which seems just silly to me, but especially in this era where you get compensation if you get Rookie of the Year.
I don't think he's going to be on the opening day roster. I think he spends the better part of a month in the minors.
Isn't that dumb?
Yep. We were trying to get away from that, but I think that will still be the case with most of these guys.
Yeah, and that's why I won't take him. He's going,
especially the Pirates, because they stink and they're far from contending. I think he spends at least a month in the minors.
Yeah. I actually agree.
Well, I'll throw those guys in the pile too. Is like, if you're going to take O'Neal Cruz and Shane Boz, now that's 2 spots that are occupied for for probably a month of the season. Like, unless you get lucky and Cruz comes up really fast, or unless you're not going to get lucky on Boz. So I think, like, again, if you're going to take a rookie that you have stashed, like O'Neal Cruz has played 6 AAA games. So it's pretty easy for the Pirates to say he needs a month in the minors. He was great in those 6 AAA games.
He needs to work on his defense. Yep.
They could say that. It's 6 games. They could say, we're going to put him down for a month. And I think they will, unfortunately. Yeah. That's the problem with the rookies too. And I dealt with that with Jared Klenick last year in a couple teams, and he didn't end up rewarding me once he finally got up. But I was carrying in my main event team last year. I drafted him and Carlos Carrasco. Carrasco was out way longer than they said he was going to be going into the season. His hamstring injury just nagged, and Klenick was down longer than I thought he was going to be. And that's 2 roster spots where I could have been streaming starters, looking for the next closer, both occupied for about 2 months, and neither of those guys did anything to help me.
I had Kelnick in my AL tout team all year, and was waiting for that beautiful call-up day, and then he got it, and it was terrible.
And he wanted to send him back.
All the terribleness.
Yeah.
He got sent down, came back up, and he was actually pretty good in the last month, but it was the damage was already done. Mm-hmm. There's a big 4, I think, above Cruz. There's Bobby Witt. There's the 2 Tigers, Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green. and Julio Rodriguez.
Yep.
I want to include him. I think those are the big four, although O'Neal Cruz is actually getting drafted ahead of a couple of those guys. But in terms of like ultimate upside prospects, I think those are the big four. Which of those are in the big leagues? Which of those are you drafting first?
Yeah, you didn't mention Witt, right? He's in.
No, I said Witt, Torque, Green, and J-Rod.
Okay, so Witt's
I think probably the number one with a bullet.
Yeah,
right?
number one with a bullet. I'll say second, Green. I'll take Green second.
Okay.
Third,
I will too, actually.
Third, the Jesse Winker trade makes me take Torkelson because just a little more outfield depth now in Seattle.
There was an effusive article from Larry Stone in the Seattle newspaper talking about J-Rod. He homered in his first spring training at bat, but I didn't see a quote from the team in that one. They're saying, there was something. Well, there was quotes from the manager, but it wasn't really like saying, oh yeah, we want him to make the opening day roster. Whereas with the Tigers, they made it pretty clear. They want these two prospects to make the opening day roster.
Yeah, I still not totally convinced that they will. I think it's just years of this old system and my cynicism now, but maybe they will. That would be a great turning point for baseball if they did.
Well, the reason why I think the Tigers will is I think the players they're replacing are replaceable. I mean, I think that it's an easier decision to do that. With especially with Torkelson, they goes to first and Scope moves to second. Done. Green, I think the outfield. I mean, does Daz Cameron really demand your playing time? No. Green's going to play right away, I think. And the Tigers want to win, though, at the same time. And they want to win now. They've made the moves in accordance with that. Seattle has two, but they also have really good outfielders. So I think it's
I think Seattle, doesn't need, they don't need to start that clock as much as the Tigers do. If the Tigers want to try to compete.
Unless like J-Rod hits 500 in spring training and then all bets are off. But, that we'll see about that. It could be like Tatis and he forces the issue. But anyways, we have some questions. Let's answer them. And then we'll sign out today. Jasper asks, or Miguel, I'm sorry, asks about Cal Quantrill. How do you feel about him as a SB3? I think that's a real life SB3, not a fantasy SB3. But he's not a strikeouts guy. Did have a great second half. What do you think about Cal Quantrill?
I'm not a big Cal Quantrill guy. I haven't been close to drafting him at all.
How could you not be a big Cal Quantrill?
I know.
You self-hating Canadian.
Grew up probably 50. I could drive to the house he grew up in 15 minutes. And let me tell you, I could not do that for any other major leaguer. So this is not a hot spot for major leaguers. Anyways, he 2.89 ERA last year, but a 4.11 FIP. A little BABIP lucky last year. Like you said, the strikeout rate's not good. Walk rate's fine. The strikeout rate's not good. Home run rate was nice and low last year. I'm just not quite sure if there'll be more bumps in the road. Now, I will, to give him credit, since last year he was solid. In the shortened season, he was solid. His FIPS are consistently higher than his ERA. Maybe he can outproduce his FIPS. I don't know. At his ADP, I find I just haven't been in on him at all. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's decent. But I think the low strikeout rate is a big part of it for me.
Yeah.
That's really low in this era. Like a few years ago, that was fine, but basically 120 and 150 innings last year, that's really low in this era.
Yeah, it is.
You can't carry many of them.
Yeah, you can take, it's just like the injured guys or the prospects.
You can
take one low strikeout start.
Yep.
One.
Him, Ryu, guys like that, you get one.
Yeah. The danger is they go Kyle Hendricks on you. You don't even get the ratios.
Yeah.
But then again, Hendricks was great for us for 5 years running. So trade off there.
Yep.
Miguel also asked, do you take a late round flyer on Mr. Trevor Bauer? Mr. Bauer, are you taking him?
I haven't. I think a late round flyer is fine. He counts though as your one rookie or one injured guy.
Yes.
At that point, unless you have a league with unlimited ILs, but he counts because he's going to be out and he's going to be out.
And you might not even be able to IL him either. You got to check your league rules on that.
That's right. And I meant so you could at least IL some other guys so that he's using a bench spot, but you at least have your other guys on the IL.
Bauer's ADP in the last week is 210. That's after the news about him going on administrative leave. Also after no criminal charges. So
Way too high for me. I'm not convinced the Dodgers are going to let him come back. We just went through this in the NFL with Deshaun Watson, but a starting superstar quarterback is different than one really good starting pitcher. I'm not sure if major league teams will line up to sign him if
Mm-hmm.
somehow he becomes like, if the Dodgers can get away from him. I don't know. The whole thing's really messy. It also, I think it is part of the situation that Bauer is really mouthy and is not the kind of guy to just come back quietly and not say boo for the rest of the year and just pitch. That doesn't, if another team's picking him up, I don't know. I'm not totally convinced that he pitches this year. So I think I'd rather just take an injured player.
Yeah.
And then I have no timeline on Bauer,
I don't either. I have no idea.
but I
I
have a
haven't.
timeline on Shane Baz.
Yeah. I
So
don't have Bauer anywhere.
yeah,
I'm not opposed to it, but I think my price is a lot lower. I
yeah.
think there is a risk he doesn't pitch at all this year.
It's also not that this totally matters, but it's not fun at all to just take Trevor Bauer and just hope that the legal system spits him out at some point and he can pitch and the Dodgers let him pitch. Like that doesn't seem like a fun way to manage. Drafting Chris Sale and just hoping he comes back really strong from this injury, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Drafting Bauer, I'm not finding really fun, and just waiting, hoping that someday Manfred walks out and says Bauer's eligible to pitch now, and the Dodgers say, "Sure, come on in and start getting ready."
For
I don't know.
sure.
That doesn't feel fun.
I'm with you on that one there
Yeah.
too. So thanks for the questions, Miguel. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody for listening. Fred, anything else before we sign off?
Actually, I'll throw in one comment here that Miguel mentioned that we didn't get to, which is fine because we got a couple of other ones. But I think it's something people need to think about. Is it looks like we're going to put the base runner on second in the 10th
Yeah,
inning
we
this
are.
year. I actually like that rule. I know a lot of people hate it. I don't really need to sit for 4.5 hours for a baseball game. I'm okay with. I think the 10th rule inning. I think the 10th inning with the new rules is fun. I think it's exciting. So I like it. But it is going to lead to good relievers getting more wins like they did last year. Look at the reliever win totals last year from the better relievers on each team. They get the 9th inning, they get the 10th inning. Manners strategically save them for the 10th innings because they need them in that with that because they know the game's probably going to end in the 10th inning. That matters. A lot of these relievers are going to get an extra win or two because of it.
Count me as one of those that doesn't like the rule, but I get it. Just can we outlaw position players pitching? So that's even dumber.
Yep, it is. Yeah,
That's what I hate seeing. I get it if it's okay, fun last, it's in the 18th inning and okay, that's fine. But I see teams do this like in the 7th and 8th innings.
Yeah, that's
sometimes.
ridiculous. Yeah.
It's just finish the damn game with you carry 13 pitchers. Come on.
Yeah.
If you mismanage your bullpen that badly that you have to use a position player that early, then you got other problems. And it drives me nuts seeing that. I don't think it's cute and novel anymore. I think it's cynical and it's gross. So anyways,
to baseball fans, I will say that as a hockey fan, it took me a while to get used to the shootout in the regular season as a way to solve a tie game, but I did get used to it. I think the runner on base is actually better than the shootout. And it's just a way of saying we play a lot of games in the season
and we don't want to have ties
and we don't want to go and we don't want to keep the fans here for another hour or two. So, and it's exciting. The shootout in hockey is exciting at the end of the game and it gets someone the win and the other guy gets,
so is the 3-on-3 for that matter.
That's amazing. And a purist would say the game should be settled 5-on-5 in hockey. And a purist would say baseball should be settled in a conventional inning, but it's fun. They play 162 games, a few games going into the 10th inning. And at that point, you're still pitching, you're still hitting, you're still fielding. It's not like a shootout in that regard in hockey or in soccer. You're still playing baseball. So
what if you just said, okay, instead of putting a runner on second, take away a fielder? You can choose which fielder, but you have to take one less fielder. It can be second base, it could be an outfielder. Probably
that would be fun.
That I'd prefer.
Maybe two. Maybe take away two fielders, one infielder.
Well, one after the you go 2 innings, you go to the 10th and 11th.
Yep.
Still tied. Okay, now you have to pull one. You get to the 13th, you got to pull two.
Yep, that would be fun.
And those guys can still bat. You just have 2 DHs and then 3 DHs. It's like 3-on-3 hockey. Then I like it. I'm advocating for this right now.
Let's do it. And again, you'd still be pitching, you'd still be hitting. I think that would be fun. By the way, we always talk about putting a runner on second to start the inning. We've never talked about putting a runner on first. Why not just put them on first? You could put them on first. That would be less of an advantage, at least.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
guess they're
Maybe that
really trying to
defeats the
encourage
purpose.
that extra run to score.
They are. Yeah,
Um,
just get the game moving, and let's.
yeah.
I don't know. I
Plus, you
think
put them on first, you're going to get like a slew of sacrifice bunts, even worse than it is now. I think it'll be like college baseball all of a sudden.
when we
But
hit the 10th inning of games now, I'm like really excited. Like that inning is right. Like when your team comes up, you're like, we need. If you're, let's say you're batting the top half, you're like, we need a run, like at least one, right? And
Mhm.
then when your team comes out to pitch in the bottom half, I don't know. I find it like 15, 20 minutes of really good, exciting television. It's fun. Like you said, like 3-on-3
You
hockey.
be you. I don't like it, but that's okay. We don't have to agree on everything.
No,
We'll see how many people chime in on my new pull the fielder plan. I think I like that
I
plan.
like it. I
Yeah.
think I am a
We'll see how many people listen to the end.
non-traditionalist in a lot of these things. I don't
Yeah.
mind a lot of the ideas for rule. I don't mind banning the shift. I don't mind a lot of these things.
Yeah, I don't
So
love banning the shift either, but we'll see what happens. I like it. I am left-handed, so maybe I should like it because
you should like
the
it.
shift disproportionately hurts lefties. All right. On that note, we are going to sign off. Big thanks to you guys. Good questions. Thanks for listening. Thanks for streaming along with us. By next week, we'll have a main event roster to talk about, and then we'll get Fred ready for his super as well. So lots of good stuff. Thanks for listening, everybody. Take care.